Okay, thanks. Okay, Sarah, you ready if we get started?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
We are here on Friday the 13th for a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners, 9:04 a.m. Sorry for getting started a little bit late. Special meeting is just going to cover finalizing, hopefully, finalizing our 2025 budget. I think we have a few outstanding issues that we'll get to, and of course the mill levies and the resolution. So are we, commissioners and staff, are we good with these three agenda items as they are?
Yeah.
What?
And as we get to it, if we don't have all the mill levy information, then we may need to
Can do it on Monday.
move that to Monday or
Yeah.
Monday.
Just to clarify for everyone, so the commissioners must certify mill levies for all other property taxing districts within Lake County. Those are, it's both, the statutory deadline is December 15th, which is Sunday. They made a presumption that everybody would get theirs to us by today, which maybe has happened. But otherwise, we can have a quick special on Monday, and we've confirmed with the state that since it does fall on the weekend, there's the extra day.
Okay,
To do for all property taxing
And-
districts. You will approve Lake County government's mill levies today.
So we can do our budget,
Yes.
but the certification of all the other mill levies needs to wait until we know that we have
Everybody's.
everybody's in. Okay,
yes,
okay. So 1 and 2, we think we're good for, but 3, we may need to bump.
yeah.
Okay,
I do know, I reached out to a couple and they said that they had sent them over to the clerk, so we'll see if we can get those
And I
shared with
asked
us.
the clerk to send them and she declined, so.
Did she give a reason? Okay. Alright, well, hopefully we can get those,
And when we
And
get to
then-
that one, we can ask you guys to search your emails just to see there's 3 outstanding ones, like,
I
As of
have,
now.
yeah, I have, and usually we're copied on those, I saw Alta's, but
Uh-huh.
I didn't see any others that came in this year,
Yeah.
so. Mountain View Village confirmed that they got a confirmation of receipt from the clerk, so I think maybe others have also, but. And also just a reminder, when we get through that, let's make sure we remember to open up a public hearing portion and public comments for the budget and whatnot.
for the budget or for
Yep.
number 3?
For the budget,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Let's launch into agenda item number 1 then.
do you want me to present and then open? the hearing?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, not just short change public comment, but I think if we, let's see the material and then if
Yeah.
we can open for public comment.
So today we will walk through 2025's budget.
Actually, I guess to that point, we could just, seeing how few people there are on Zoom, and we could just ask if there's anyone in the room or on Zoom who wants, who wishes to make public comment prior to the presentation of material, or if, just wanna respect people's time, if anyone in the public wants to make a comment before seeing the presentation of the 2025 budget, I am okay with that. Yeah,
I may have to go, so I wanted to make sure that I got this on record as an incoming county commissioner, Matt Bullock here. I'm concerned about the money and the remodel of this building, and I don't want you guys to take this as an indictment. It's really just expressing my concerns. Practicing using my voice in this room without it shaking, so concerned about our financial situation. It hasn't been financial statements since 2022. We still haven't seen the audit. There doesn't seem to be any plans or priority lists for this building. And it seems to me like we're just trying to get the money, and we don't really have a prioritized plan in place. If we do, I'd like to see it. And so, speaking with our insurers yesterday, you know, it'd be nice to have a meeting with them. They haven't been here in a couple of years. So those are my concerns. I had a few more I forgot now, but I just wanted to get that on record so that when you guys leave and we come in and we inherit this $12.5 million project with no paperwork, plan, sharing of information, and request as much sharing as I can get.
Alright,
That's all I got.
understood for sure, and yeah, it's a big financial commitment, so our personal commitment and commitment to, you know, share, you know, all the planning documents that we do have, you know, on that project. You know, both the actual physical plans, but also the financial aspects of it too, so. Heard loud and clear. I see a hand raised with TNT. TNT, if you could state your name for the record, and you have, you know, I didn't give the spiel before, but we do respectfully ask people limit their comments to 3 minutes, and typically the purpose of public comment is to raise awareness of issues, and we don't get into a discussion that we might in a work session. So with that said, TNT, if you could, go ahead.
There, it's Tina Tkansik. And I'm
You're,
just.
you're a little bit faint, Tina, if you could, I don't know if you get closer to your mic or raise it on your, and we'll do the volume here too.
Well, it's Tina Tkansik.
Still can't
I was glancing over, can you hear me?
You're really faint, and we turned the volume up quite a bit here. We'll keep going, so just speak loud and clear.
Well, anyways, I was just looking over the 25 budget and looking just at the salaries. I noticed that there was inconsistencies as far as like the Social Security and the Medicare percentage taken out. And I had seen it prior, and I think I had made a comment about it. I just want to make sure that, you know, the figures that are in there is actually what should be paid, or if it's going to be more money than what is shown.
Okay, thanks Tina, noted. We will, yeah, we'll take that on board, and check with staff. I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for flagging that. Okay, with that, sorry for that, but go ahead, Tim.
Alright. So today, just as a reminder, there's a couple things that we'll walk through as the 2025 budget. So I'll spend a lot of time on the general fund, but then also looking at all other funds that the county has and that the commissioners make decisions on. This process started in July of this year, looking at year-to-date actuals of department's 2024 budgets, and then really working for the past, you know, five and a half months on 2025's budget through various work sessions and regular meetings with the commissioners to get guidance and decisions on the 25 budget. Direction was given to department directors and elected officials that there will be no new FTEs or full-time equivalents in their 2025 budgets, and that there needed to be a 5% reduction in their supplies and services budget. On top of that, I directed all department directors under my purview to reduce their budgets by $20,000. So that is where we're coming in with a balanced budget, and really focusing on our financial analysis and budgetary skills in getting our budgets much tighter and more appropriate for the service levels that we provide to the community. So we'll start with our general fund. General fund is our primary funding source for Lake County government. revenues come from property, sales tax, or general fees, charges, and grants. So the general fund allocates pretty much, funds all elected offices. So coroner, sheriff, clerk and recorder, assessor, treasurer, and board of county commissioners. Don't think I forgot anybody. And then also all of the general government categories are supported by the general fund. So we did alphabetical order or elections, alphabetical, we're going alphabetical order this year. So just as a reminder, when we look at our revenue and expense budget categories, so you'll see on the left there, those are the areas that we roll things up for. So charges for services, grants, contributions, interests, miscellaneous, intergovernmental, license and permits, miscellaneous, taxes and transfers. So for a majority of departments, the revenue, would be, well, a lot of departments are cost centers, but for a majority of departments, any revenues will be taxes, intergovernmental, and charges for services. Intergovernmental means that it is coming from another governmental source, so from the state or the federal government. Obviously, grants and contributions are kind of self-explanatory, same with charges for services. Miscellaneous roll-up are things that just don't fit into other categories cleanly. So we've broken those out and we have explanations for all of those. So when we look at the assessor's 2025 budget for those revenues, the miscellaneous are the charges for services that he does do for like Zillow, Redfin, for data requests that companies ask of the assessor's office. The reason it is in miscellaneous is that we are still working on cleaning up the underlying schema or the general ledger of Lake County government. And we're now in our third year of working on that, but we've now identified all of the issues, so by Q2 of next year, all of that will be resolved. So when you look at the chart of accounts, everything will be clean and make sense. As of right now, we don't have the best chart of accounts, and you can't really change it mid-year without drastically changing a lot of things. Looking at assessor expenses.
Actually, Tim, if I could just, since we have incoming commissioners, like chart of accounts is a very dry term, but like, to my understanding, chart of accounts is like, in some ways, it's just like how we roll up all the, every individual nut and bolt we buy in the whole county has to get tagged somewhere. And the chart of accounts is like this roll up of like how those things get tagged and then sort of aggregated into something you can actually understand on one PowerPoint slide. And it's tricky, it's a lot of work to get every department sort of doing that consistently, and even within a department doing it consistently across everything, for the whole year. So to go back and clean that up, it just takes time, and you're sort of building it while you're flying, because you still have to operate the county and tag stuff. So that's, I think, maybe a longer description of what Tim was saying. Like chart of accounts is like really important to get this roll up to be accurate and meaningful and consistent. And that in some ways is why, I don't know, go further than that, but just to understand, like chart of accounts sounds like some boring little thing, but it's actually like really important, so that this chart and this chart for every department is sort of really meaningful, information. And it just hasn't been done as consistently in the past as it might have been. And it's a lot of work to clean that up, as you're still operating the county and moving money to pay things, so.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes. So similar with, every other department, every business, every organization, personnel will be your largest expense. So when we look at these slides, you'll see what our 2024 budgeted is, and then looking at our long range plans out for the 25 budget, and then 3 years looking out. So this is where our budget starts to tell the story of where things have changed. So looking at professional services for 2024, in the assessor's budget was, as Assessor Wadsworth was coming in, there was some extra help that he did need for cleaning up again, decades of bad data that the assessor's office has had, working through various things where he just needed some of those external help. Going forward, looking at the professional services line is gonna be your commercial appraiser and his expense for Tyler for our operating software system. He is now fully staffed. Looking at the Board of County Commissioners, so this is the 3 commissioners and then the areas where we have worked with this board to budget that. So if you look at other expenses, we did put in $224,000, there's a typo there, $224,783, looking at the balance for the grant fund. And that really is just trying to show that all of the match for transit, any goal matching grants, the transportation improvement grant, climate action plan, any of those things are accounted for and shown that we have those. So that the part of that and then part of the other expense is the commissioner contingency. And then personnel is for the 3 commissioners. Professional services, you will see that increase there. So that includes the COP payment, again reflecting where it is until the creation of the Lake County jail and courthouse renovation fund is created, which you will hopefully do. I will recommend that you do that next week, which will be the debt service fund and all that. But for purposes of presenting the budget and displaying that we have everything in there, this is where I put the COP payment.
Yeah, Tim, quickly on other expenses, so like those things you listed, like the transit and the transportation or transit safety planning grant, those are basically things that don't have a department, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
they just sort of sit in the BOCC as kind of independent efforts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been working like with the public works budget, specific to not to road and bridge, but maybe adjacent to road and bridge, what like a like fleet and transit manager or coordinator would look like, and then the budget could fall there. We haven't done that yet.
Tim, the personnel, those are salaries that are fixed by statute.
Correct.
It doesn't seem correct, it should at least increase by like $30,000 and even more with
For the 79.
fringe assumptions. Cause I think the new salaries are over
Yeah.
$10,000 more than ours are currently.
That is true. We'll double check those, cause I'm pretty sure all of the new salaries for the BOCC and for the assessor have been at the new rate, but yes, good thing to flag.
Yeah. And, right, and then the less important for now, but the projected, like, because it bumps up only with each term, I would think the projected would be more stable, more flat.
That accounts for health insurance, those increases there.
Okay, gotcha,
Right, the fringe will change.
The fringe will change.
okay.
The clerk and recorder's budget, so a couple things to notice on here for the charges for service and miscellaneous. A lot of it is are those things for charges for service, but the miscellaneous is really like that direct pass through to the state. And then some of those charges for services the county does realize, but we don't realize the full amount. The clerk and recorder, similar to some other county departments, really is an extension of the state. Division of Motor Vehicle, Department of Revenue, what else you got in there? Elections? Yes.
Authority.
Yes, all of those, so, but a lot of that authority stems from the state and then revenues collected there go back to the state. So looking at expenses, this was based off of what the clerk and recorder had submitted for the year-to-date budget, and then she did work a little bit with the deputy finance director. So you'll see that professional services line drops again, so 2024 was a general election, 2025 will be a coordinated election, so it's not going to be as expensive and won't need as much for professional services for running the election. Pause.
I know,
Yeah, everyone,
that's great,
yes.
thank you.
CSU extension, so Diana Solenberger has just started. But we do have a CSU extension director now back in the county. So the county contributes, as you can see, a very small amount towards an entire department, if you will, or towards an entire person. So a majority of so that professional services line is contributed to Diana's salary, and then we provide, you know, some IT, computer, we do contribute a little bit towards her training budget. Otherwise, everything else is covered by CSU. It also brings the full weight of the CSU campus, all those programs and all of that, much closer to Lake County and for us to take advantage of. Her office is up at CMC, so there's a great partnership there as well with CMC, and a great pipeline for, you know, students who, you know, might get their associates at our campus, and then they have a direct line, or at least a helper line to get to, you know, their bachelor's or higher at CSU. Just for example, so Diana, her background in programmatic areas that she'll focus on will be a lot of wildfire mitigation work, Forest Health Council things. She will partner with the Chafee extension director, who works very closely with our 4-H club, so helping with there, but not running our 4-H, and then developing other programmatic areas for Lake County.
Tim, I think our contribution was 14,300 or 700, and the vacancy was significant over the years, so I'm
Yes.
assuming that's why the 24 budget looks like that.
Yes,
But was there an increase on their request for our contribution for 25?
yes, the salary for the extension director is higher than what it was in the past, so kind of it increases that way.
Okay.
So we we'll see how, you know, 25 shakes out. I see no reason for Diana to not stay. She's very excited to be here, but I imagine we're actually the second lowest. Teller County is a little bit below us, so we're the two lowest counties that contribute, smallest amounts that contribute. But yes, it is an increase.
Thanks.
So community justice, we flagged this in the general fund because it does show up in my budget as a revenue. So the community justice coordinator in that grant funds Angel's salary and half of Gloria's salary, and then the work that they do for the various community justice initiatives.
What's the duration of that grant, Tim?
It is through 2025, however, with the incoming administration, it could end in March. So Angel's working on exploring other grant opportunities to continue the work. But you know, he was hired on and did know that it does expire in 2025.
The end of 2025 or the beginning of 2025?
March 31st, 2025.
March 31st?
Well, yes,
If it doesn't get an extension.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's, yeah. In a perfect world, it would get the extension, however,
For the extension of the grant?
Yeah.
Okay.
because we started late.
Okay.
We got awarded the grant and then it took us a while to hire the position. And breakout of the salary amounts, then the professional services that they work on, and then the supplies area. So the supplies area is so the translation equipment, flyers, other advocacy materials, professional services is working with the language justice consultant, and then some other like translation and interpretation services.
So half of Gloria's salary comes out of that 127 figure?
Yep.
Okay.
community planning and development. So when we look at Ann's budget, so a lot of it is those charges for services, that's just the licenses and permits. The miscellaneous are some of the new permits and things that we haven't like plugged into licenses and permits yet. So when the board created the STR permitting process last year, so some of those fees are marked in as miscellaneous. Environmental reviews, OWTS, since we took that from public health, moved it to CPD, so that's what makes up those miscellaneous revenues in there. And then yeah, so Ann brings in money, which is super duper, and she also spends it. When we look at other expenses, so that big uptick, for right now, we have left, with board direction, have left in I think it's 1.3 million for the West 3rd and West 6th housing project, for assistance of the financing on that as we work with Adam Berger LLC. So that was the set aside that we did. We did leave it in just as longer range, so we could see what, for contributions to other housing projects would look like. But that other expense line can definitely come down in 2026, if we find other financing mechanisms for future development. And then you'll see Ann's personnel, so 2025, this is part of her long range plan, so it's not technically a new FTE, but in 2025, we are hoping to bring on that building inspector. So Ann's been working with contractors throughout their community to see maybe, folks who are like winding down, being a contractor, if they would wanna step in, be the building inspector. Matt decided to go another route, so. Yeah. But that's our goal, and then when we have our own FTE as that building inspector, we reduce that professional services expenditure to Shun's Coda, which currently provides those services for us. So if we are able to hire that person, we stop paying out for professional services and drastically lower that amount. For the coroner, in the 2025 budget, we have started the site plan and the design work for the coroner facility down by the Southern Fire Station. You will see in the 2025 budget, we have allocated the rest of the money, and Shape Architecture and Downstream Construction won the bid for that. So we've padded it a little bit, but it is really close to their bid amount of $550, I think is what it was, to construct the coroner's facility. So that funding is in there for the 2025 budget, and of course, again, drops back down after the facility is built. County attorney, thanks to Chris and her deputy, we've been able to reduce some of those professional services by having our in-house specialty. And then Chris manages all of the other legal contracts within the county, or legal counsel, outside counsel, that's what you call them, outside counsel, special counsel, there we go. County manager for personnel includes Lauren and I. And then part of those other expenses is the contingency line that the commissioners have given for us. Part of that roll up for the other expenses for 2024 was the addition of funding to complete the remodel of the annex. And some of the other contingency items that were added. And then that,
Is Angel part of it?
yes, and Angel's salary is part of the personnel as well. Which is the grant revenue, but the total personnel cost is that. Some quiet. So we fund, District Attorney McCollum's office, so we are part of the 5th Judicial District, so Clear Creek, Summit, Eagle, and Lake County make up that judicial district. The DA's office has a formula based on assessed valuation, population, some caseload amount in there. So this is what was requested, and then the commissioners gave a thumbs up to fund the 2025 budget for the DA's office. Finance team, so you'll see the reduction in professional services there after we did the big cleanup this year, working with Eide Bailey on that. So professional services will include work for our auditors, DMC Consulting, our cost allocation plan, and then just a little bit of room for any other professional services if finance should need that. HR, looking at the other expenses and the training, so the other expenses does include the merit increase for next year, so the commissioners gave a thumbs up for doing a merit pool again for next year, so that's where we had that set aside in other expenses. The training does include the learning and development fund, and then some more like specific funding, which is what we'll do in 2025 for like manager and supervisor training.
On that merit pool, am I remember right, we kept the merit pool in HR just so that there was some sort of like central consistency over
Yes.
how that was done, and it wasn't just sort of like,
Right.
I hate to use the word slush fund, but like it wasn't just like sent out to the departments to use as they wish, just have that.
Correct, so and as we work through performance review processes, which happen in July, and then raises are effective in August. So then we use that fund to, go to the clerk and recorder's budget, go to my budget, however, the raises are done that way, so then we have a way to track it. Library, so the library does have some charges for services that they do for some of the programs. They do not charge late fees or anything like that, but there are some things that folks contribute to for some of the programs. The miscellaneous revenue is just things that come along, like, whether a bequeathment, a donation, Colorado Gives Day, those kind of things, and then it should be in our grants and contributions, but they're rolled up into the miscellaneous, but that's what that revenue is. Got it. Oh, we didn't have the library expenses.
I can fix that.
Okay. Looking at the maintenance budget, so maintenance is under public works budget, but this is a general fund expense. So this covers working with pros and goal, maintaining our parks, maintaining our facilities, things like that. So that's where you see that the professional services and services lines are for, building maintenance needs, annual routine maintenance needs. Some of the funding, can address deferred maintenance, but obviously not to the amount that some of our facilities need. Office of Emergency Management, so Claire's budget is a little bit different. It is both general fund and grant funded. So we do receive a grant from through FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security, and then through the state, through the Division of Homeland Security at the state. We do receive a grant amount, sorry, we put it in the wrong line, but that grant amount. So that grant amount we use to contribute towards salaries in OEM. And then the 2024 budget, why that line is so high is the intergovernmental is because we did part of the hazard mitigation plan, we received funding from the state for that. It wasn't a grant, and then the transfer in was to shore up some of the other projects, and then that OEM did in 25 or 24, sorry. And then, as you can see going forward, that we did used to receive much more funding, especially in the past, like 23 and prior for OEM, but that money has been cut back. So we'll see what the federal government will do with their 25 budget, if it'll go back up or see further decreases. But in the last federal budget, both FEMA, Homeland Security, and then of course VOCA all received pretty large cuts. So they didn't balance their budget, but they did cut those things.
Dare I note that, I mean, having had so much grant funding for this in the past, it's never been a conversation to cost share with the city. It might be
True, it
a
would be,
conversation to bring up.
yeah,
in the
I think
future.
that is a great point.
Serves the whole county.
It sure does. Looking at OEM's expenses, right, large part is that starting in, in 2025, kind of after this year, the Interlock and Fire kind of threw a lot of the plans off for those trainings and things like that, countywide trainings. So we'll see a little bit of an increase for professional services. Claire has all of next year like planned out, similar to what she did for 2024, but the wildfire threw a pretty big wrench into that. But that's why you see the professional services budget increasing there. Operations oversees our marketing, communications, IT for Lake County government, and at Sandra's part, our executive administrative assistant. So the biggest change you will see is in the professional services line. So in there, we will be talking to the commissioners about this next week, but as we've really worked really hard to address IT deferred maintenance and cleaning up our IT infrastructure, changing the service level amount that we have with Applied Tech, which is our third party technology vendor, so they manage our network, our servers, all of that, so increasing that, and then hopefully out in the next couple of years being able to decrease that back down where we can manage it internally when we have proper SOPs and everything in place. But it's been quite a journey for Liz to clean up a lot of things. But cleanup you have, so thank you. Yes. Parks, recreation, open space, and goal. So for parks and recreation, do charges for services, so Dutch Henry, Huck Finn, a variety of the programming that they do throughout the community. There's a charge for that service, or a fee for that. Grants and contributions, that covers majority of goals operations, the biggest one being Rocky's Rock Summer Camp, providing childcare to folks. So they do bring in a decent amount of revenue for that. And they also spend it. The personnel number, why that is so high, that accounts for all of the seasonal employees. So in Parks, Rec, and Open Space, we have 3 deputy directors over Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Goal. And then in Parks and Recreation, there are 3 FTE total, Open Space is 1, Goal is 4 FTE. And then we have the director over that. But we do hire a lot of folks seasonally. I think for Rocky's Rock this year, we hired 38 people. And then dependent on the season for recreation, you've seen them all around the building, all of the high schoolers that we use for various tasks for everything, so they work a lot through recreation, whether it's running our facilities like Dutch and Huck Finn, helping with programming, working with the community in various capacities that way, so that's what makes up a majority of that personnel budget, is our seasonal staff.
Well, I mean, seasonal, but also, like, am I right, like, I mean, it's, every program has its season, but it's like, maybe
Yes.
part-time's a better, whereas like, like coaches or, people running, all the programs that rec do, like, a lot
Correct.
of those folks who actually instruct in those programs or
Yes.
coach are super part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we do compensate them for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, part-time, but paid.
Right. Senior Center, so the revenues that we receive are intergovernmental through the COG, our Council of Government, and the AAA Area Agency on Aging. So we receive a bit of money from them every year. And that helps offset the cost of the congregate meals, some of Loretta's salary, who prepares those meals and works on that, and some other minimal expenses at the senior center. Our senior center expenses, so we have, I think there are two FTE and then several part-time folks who help with driving seniors. Whether that's for the programs, going to Central City for the day, or we also have the ability to, take folks to the doctor or other appointments outside of the community if folks do need to sign up for that and all of that, but we have several part-time drivers for that. We have Loretta as the cook, and then Rochelle is our director there.
Bertha's still over there? The assistant for Loretta?
Yes,
There's other
Yes,
supportive, there's a
sorry,
couple other
yes.
supportive staff.
yes. For sheriff's office, so his charges for services are, tickets, and things like that, but some of those also fall into miscellaneous based on the way that sometimes the tickets are written, and then it's put into the treasurer's office and then translated over to finance. So an area that we are still working on cleaning up, but these are things that the sheriff does bring in. There are other, charges for services, background checks, concealed carry, VIN inspections, all of that. And then tickets, DUI, some of the DUI fines get passed back to the local law enforcement, so things like that. Everyone should be very wary if Heath wants to increase his revenues, because there's one way to do that.
Does he get any grants?
Yes, so we have worked, we have not had the official award letter on one, but we've gotten like a thumbs up, like you guys are probably gonna get this. For a school resource officer for 2 years worth of salary, and then, what was the other one?
They applied for a co-responder, I don't know if they've heard yet.
Okay, I think that was the other one, they got the thumbs up on, but the award hasn't happened yet, so that's why we didn't put it in there.
Is Saul Vista Mental Health still involved in co-response, or, yeah?
Yeah, so the grant that goes through the Behavioral Health Administration to fund Sol Vista and Lauren's position is switching over to the counties and municipalities now, so all the funding will go through the counties, only counties can apply for it. So we're working with Heath on, do you wanna apply for another one, or if you don't get this grant, can we apply for the one that Sol Vista is funded through? And then should Lauren stay in the sheriff's office, or in Sol Vista, or should she transfer as an FTE in the sheriff's office, so,
So we, right now, the community just has one co-responder,
yes.
the next sheriff of the city, right? Or not?
I don't think so.
Mhm.
She's just within the, she works at Sol Vista, gets supervision, clinical supervision there, but works just for the
She
sheriff's
just
office.
works for the sheriff?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've only really had one, right? Been able to staff one
Sustain it, yeah.
person there.
Yeah, cause a couple of years ago, they had one and that person was share it between the sheriff and the city. Yeah,
I think she's just within the sheriff's office,
Is it, yeah?
from what I understand.
okay.
The bulk here, so looking at the sheriff's office, other expenses, some of these things, you know, should be able to fit into services and supplies and things like that, but ammunition, weapons, some of the vests, some of those other things have just like have fallen into that other expenses budget, but those are it's mainly supplies that make up that number. And then of course personnel, being a larger one, he does have, you know, various professional services that he utilizes, invests in training for his team, and the transfers out would be, would be transfers to other funds, sorry.
Which line item is transporting detainees, you know, to Chafee?
That is also, part of the other,
Okay,
so that makes up the biggest chunk of it.
yeah.
That includes the contract with Chaffey County, right?
Yep. So we have an IGA with Chaffey County to take inmates and house them down there, since we can't house them here longer than 72 hours. Alright, tourism and economic development, this is just for general fund. We will get to the lodging tax fund later when we talk about other funds. So this is just for tourism and economic development. That does cover the personnel costs. That professional services is the $250,000 that the commissioners have talked about for capital request for 2025. And then the other things in there, but the main, this is Adam's salary is what this is the general fund, since we made that change this year to have that salary come out of the general fund and then more of the lodging and accommodations tax funding go towards visitor center and cover Katie's salary, all the various part-time folks and helpers over there.
So that $102,000 figure for 2025, that's just Adam's salary, is that him and Katie?
No, that's his total compensation, so salary, fringe, everything, yeah.
That's about a $77,000+ salary. It's not, I think it's higher, like slightly higher than that, but I know I believe a $77,000 salary total compensation is a flat $100,000.
Who's paying Katie's salary?
That comes out of the lodging and the accommodations tax. So that's the strategic change that the board wanted to make this year, to add in the focus on economic development for Lake County. So that, again, this is just general fund. So for the treasurer, so the way we look at this when you see that, so since the treasurer's statutory duty is to receipt in all money for the county, so that's why you see the taxes line there very big. Treasurer Smith takes in sales, property tax, other things, he is allowed for the charges for services, for the treasurer's fees. He does invest all of the county's money per our investment policies. We had a decent return in 2024 of around $1.5 million. And then some of the other transfers would be, it still needs to be booked through the treasurer's office when we take things from other funds that would go towards count as revenue. So that's where you see our revenues realized in the budget by category. So Patrick takes in the money, you guys have the authority to spend the money. Which you'll see here, here's his budget for, hello. where you'll see his budget for 2025. And that being mainly the personnel and then the professional services relies around some of the external accounting help received by them, and then for the what do you call them, the auctions? The deed sales, the
Oh,
tax.
tax lien.
Thank you,
sale.
yes, yeah. Part of that is rolled up in there, and then also his the service line for Eagle Treasury, his software system. Veteran Services, we receive revenue from the state that cover Harry's salary for the year, his amount. So that comes from the state Office of Veteran Affairs. And we'll see where Harry spends it. How many hours a week? Is it 20 hours a week?
Yeah.
Is it less?
Less than that, yeah. It's like
And
80
the-
hours a month.
8 hours a month, yes, so that's why when you're like, wow, we don't pay him much, he does not need to work that, he doesn't need to be full-time, is the point I'm getting to. And he does have some supplies and then some training that he goes to throughout the state. Harry is also based up at the up at CMC, in that community room is where his office hours are, and then he connects veterans with various services that the state and the federal government provide. Do you wanna add anything with veteran services?
It's statutorily mandated, every county is required to have a VSO. So like background. It's more like DHS where he helps people enroll in the VA, like disability services and those types of things, I'd say.
And resolve issues like when, you know, if they think they're enrolled but they get dropped, he helps them figure out what happened.
He's actually, I would say, a pretty big economic driver and the amount of disability funding he puts into the county to support veterans.
Alright, so that is, so everything we just went through were general government, departments and areas that we do fund out of the general fund. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit, this is still gonna be general fund, but these are intergovernmental agreements, that we spend general fund dollars on to provide services to people of Lake County. So the E911 authority, so this is their total budget, and we're still working on updating these things, but this will be the total budget. And so when the Board of County Commissioners last year created the E911 authority, it is made up of a board of directors that includes the sheriff, the fire chief, the police chief, director of emergency management, and director of emergency medical, EMT, what's Jeremiah's title, sorry. Anyway, it's a 5-member board that the commissioners created with the intent that those 5 main users of dispatch manage dispatch, and then those 5 main users pay into dispatch. So the general fund funds the county's contribution through the sheriff's office. And then all the other entities pay into it as well. And then this is the breakout that we do see for that, trying to get dispatch fully staffed up, and the various services, you know, trainings and things that they need. So last year, or this year, 2024, the commissioners did add more funding to this in order to bring the aging IT infrastructure of dispatch up to date. So we now have equipment that is good and useful and can be updated and used for like the next 5 to 8 years. And the E911 board is working on building that fund to be able to replace that in the next couple of years. But so we have that, so the E911 authority was extremely thankful for that. And then now, this is the budget that the 911 authority has approved and then that we're contributing to. For the animal shelter, the commissioners gave direction to fund the animal shelter at $160,000 for 2025, which is based on 2024 actuals. You will see that we left the long-range plan blank until the new IGA is completed with the city. So the commissioners made a good faith effort on contributing funding to that, but you know, the notice to terminate still stands, so we'll see between what the six of you in this room do.
Yeah.
But there's the budget for 25 is what I put in the budget.
Right, and regardless of what happens with the IGA or that, that notice to terminate, we still need a budget line item in it for shelter operation.
Correct.
So, I had this is maybe a side question we can handle later, cause I'm not sure it affects the budget, but my understanding is under the current existing IGA, our obligation is to pay our half of actual expenses. So my question is, this number is a little different than the city's budgeted number, but that's okay. The budgeted numbers don't have to be the same, we are just under the obligation to pay the 50% of actuals. And this covers that, so we're in good stand. I think the real question is, I just wanna make sure that we're 100% certain that this budget allocation makes us in good standing under the current IGA. So we can think about that and
I
come back
would
to
think
that.
it would.
I think so too. I just wanna be really clear on that it's okay that those numbers are different and that that's not us falling short of our IGA obligation.
Oh, yeah, so,
I don't want us
They
to be in,
noticed
I don't
it.
want us to be in default.
correct, and it's just,
Okay.
as
Well-
part, I think as part of that, but then the notice to terminate that was sent in March of 2024 is, as of today, still in effect.
Yeah, and
So
we-
as of today, it is, cause as you mentioned, it's the actual expenditures.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, when I
So-
agree with that assessment,
yeah.
if we don't pay a bill, we're in default,
yeah,
if we, yeah.
That's
Those
what would
numbers can be
trigger the default, not what you budget, but if you fail to pay the.
that, yeah, and yes, we know, I think we have next week, probably an agenda item to resolve where we are with the animal shelter stuff, and obviously there's some correspondence from the city we'll get to, so I didn't wanna get into that here, I just wanted to make sure that we're comfortable with that 160, and I think we very much are.
Level Lake County Fire Rescue, so this is also an IGA with the city of Leadville. So Lake County pays 70% of the fire department's annual budget. So for 2025, that is 1.8 million.
While I'm editorializing, I just wanted to thank Chief Daly for coming before us with, mid-year budget updates, working with you, Tim, on, salary and other budget elements, essentially working through, even though the fire department is not required to, working through giving us really good information and working through collaboratively to get to, that budget amount that we share. So I wanted to thank the chief for that. And I will note that that did not happen with the animal shelter budget. Thank you.
Right, so now we'll completely change, we will look at our enterprise funds. So enterprise funds are created for a specific reason, and they generate revenue from fees and charges for services to cover the costs associated with operating and maintaining those services. So our airport, the airport brings in revenues, and a big chunk of the revenues that Josh brings in that miscellaneous line are jet fuel sales. So we've been debating on where to put that. We can put it in charges for services, but that 706K is really made up of jet fuel sales, some hangar income, not a whole lot. The taxes are sales taxes, part of it that is, we have to pass along some of it to the state and we get to keep some of it, so that's what makes up a majority of the airport's revenues. Josh also, I think he's on track this year to sell $80,000 in merchandise, t-shirts, hats, all of that. Pilots love to come here, get their certificate that they flew into the highest airports and get their beer mug and go on their way. Personnel's a big driver there. This year we did do the taxiway extensions up at the airport. And then, looking forward in 25, we'll start the pen and ink update to get the hangar areas and those legal descriptions and all of that drawn out so we can start building new hangars up there. And then in 2026 will be probably a full update of the AIP or Airport Improvement Plan, which is their master plan. It hasn't been updated in 10 years, so in 2026 will be 12 years. A little too long for the FAA, but they like us, so. The landfill is an enterprise fund and that is used with charges for services, so dumping fees for commercial haulers, when you take things to the landfill, charging those fees. We also do realize revenue from recycling. We do recycle actually a decent amount up at the landfill and charge for services that, and then the yellow bag fees all go into that amount. And then realizing revenues there. I know, folks sometimes have a problem with recycling, but really it's a lot of the contamination that comes from our drop sites when you put a bag of trash into the cans. Staff are not gonna pull your trash out to recycle the cans, we dump it for their health and safety. So it's really personal responsibility of folks who use the drop sites to get those done, but we do actualize a lot of revenue from recycling. Then landfill expenses, right, so all of these revenues from the enterprise fund go and cover the cost of personnel, which is, the salary cost of fringe, all of that, any professional services needed, and services and supplies and things that are needed for that. And then each of these have a fund balance that we can work through as well to address if there are any shortcomings, which generally there aren't, and then we try and build those fund balances as well. So the Water Enterprise Program, this was created this year to be effective 1/1/2025. So the Water Enterprise Program takes Lake County government's very limited water portfolio, which is 40 acre feet a year. But really when you take out evaporative loss and the court decreed amount for Mount Massive Golf Course, is it 22 acres? 19? Sorry, John. We have a much smaller amount of water that we can use. This water can be used for varying things, but what the commissioners have decided to use it for is, the ability for folks to be able to augment whether it is developments or even just like your own residential home, if you put somewhere in and you don't have the water rights or access to that, so this will be for well fees, all kinds of things like that, and then this will be an ongoing expense that folks will pay into every year, so the charges for services for this should cover our personnel costs, and we might have some general fund contribution for next year for helping with professional services with our water council. But this is the Water Enterprise Program that was just created and has been a long time in the making, because in 2016 or 17.
The decree,
Yeah,
that was,
well, that was when, yeah,
In that time
back,
period.
right, yeah. Which took a decade to get
and that
the water
itself took,
decree.
a
Yeah,
decade
yeah,
to
so-
happen, so it's been 20+ years trying to get to the point where we have a clear sense of what our water assets are.
And this is a similar model, that's used across the state. The closest one would be Summit County, but various other municipalities and local jurisdictions or local water districts use this model as well, so that is what we have built it off of. enterprise's expenses. Alright. So the enterprise funds is what the commissioners have the authority to create. Statutory funds are what the state tells you you have to fund and fund for a specific purpose. The largest one of these is human services. So that intergovernmental amount is coming through state and federal funding and pass-through funding straight to DHS. That taxes amount of $888,000 is coming from the general fund, a general fund contribution to DHS, and the transfer in what?
Rent.
That was the rent, yes, thank you. When we look at human services, we'll get to the other expenses below, but we do, looking at these total numbers, we'll be able to explain them better on the next slide of what some of those revenues and then the expenses go to, but these are the big buckets for it. And the reason we have them in other is because it goes through all these. I'll turn it over to you to talk us through it.
Yeah, so some of the expenses for human services go directly to clients. Some of them are cut across programs. So these are all programs that human services administers. So it's like IT costs, supplies and services, but we have to cut them and bill them to each program. So it's really hard when you do big roll-ups to show those, because it's really by program costs. So for example, like food assistance, a lot of that funding is just straight to electronic benefit cards to clients to pay for food. Some of the other ones like child welfare, a lot of that funding goes to prevention services to pay for mental health or wraparound care for kids and families involved in the child welfare system. So how human services bills their expenses, again, is by the program area. That's not as easy to roll up in how the county does their budgeting. Do you want me to say anything else? or-
No, thank you, I thought they might have questions, but.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yeah, I
I
think,
don't wanna like
yeah.
take up everything.
Yeah, no, we had a couple people make comment, including Matt at the beginning, I think yes, given that you are incoming commissioner, absolutely, please.
So I heard that there was a grant that we weren't matching, that we needed to be matching. Is that reflected in this?
No.
For human services?
Human services?
No,
Is
I
that
took it out.
DHS?
It is, we ended that grant with HICPA because of the matching
Okay,
amount of funds, so that's not reflected here.
okay, great, thank you.
Road and Bridge is another statutory fund, so that intergovernmental and that miscellaneous, we'll get to that miscellaneous revenue in a second, but a lot of this funding is made up through the Highway User Trust Fund, which is based on taxes on the first 15 and then 27 cents per gallon of gasoline. So that's what those come from. Michael, up at Public Works and for Road and Bridge, there are charges for services, excavation and cut permits, driveway permits, those kind of things. And then there's some of the general fund that can go to it for various offsets. So when we look at those road and bridge revenues, so we have the highway users and then that reimbursement, so that reimbursement also comes from highway users. That highway users number is set by per mile lane of paved road, asphalt road within the county, and then there are reimbursements based on fuel sales within the county, so that's an amalgamation of how the road and bridge fund is created. And we do see some of that revenue is from, we do work for the fire, we do help with the fire department, for keeping some of the maintenance costs within the county that can be done. And then, of course, any of the assets that Michael can sell any old equipment, anything like that, gets folded back into his fund. Cause it's generally spent out of the road and bridge fund. So looking at Michael's, again, biggest expense being personnel. Some of those professional services make up our engineering contracts that we have across the county. We do have one master one, but then there's also, surveys that are needed, and then some other contracting expenses. So since the current pattern we have now, so 2024 was a gravel or dirt road year for maintenance and upgrades. 2025 will be a paved road year, so any contracting expenses, renting of any equipment, the laydown machines, some of the things like that. We did build in the long range plans of what that would look like, just going out, but that of course is subject to change, but that's what makes up a lot of the Michael's 2025 budget, and then especially in that supplies category for asphalt and asphalt oil.
It's hot plant.
Hot plant is, hot plant is operational.
Okay.
It is just that now it is the trade-off on having enough people to run the dump trucks from them. So, like if so it takes at least 2 people to be out at the hot plant to run the hot plant. And then if you're driving back and forth, so if it's, something, county road, give me a county road, 36. Wherever, if it's north or south of the hot plant, right, which is down, out in the gravel pit, by the gravel pit on County Road 11, right, like, so 2 folks to operate the hot plant, 1 truck driver, 1 dump truck, at least like 30-45 minutes back and forth, right, so like those timing, those efficiency issues. So we were able to get some help, 1 driver for 1 day from the city of Leadville. So, but there is potential, still working with the streets director at the city of like, hey, if you have paving projects and we have paving projects, but we'll get there. We'll keep working on that relationship.
Tim, just to punch in the thought, I mean, it's like, so
Yes.
we just don't have that many people, so to run 2 people at the hot plant, 1 or 2 people running the dump truck, and then 2 or more people actually like running the laydown machine, we sometimes don't have that many people.
Yeah, cause he's got a total of 8 full-time operators. Has any thought been given to hiring people seasonally or part-time for some of these spots?
Yes, and we do so we're gonna pilot that this year, so we've hired a couple part-time CDLs for plow drivers, for driving plows, to be able to help at various times, so we've done that. So then we're hoping to, for these project-specific things, we can pull up the map later on Michael's proposal for paving for next year, but yeah, trying to hire those folks who can do it, or even, if we can get folks who can run our dump trucks, or even if it's worth the cost, maybe contracting out somebody to at least run the trucks for us. We do have a great relationship with ACA which is also down by our gravel pit, so they're always willing to help, their business and they're making a lot, so sometimes we're, an afterthought, but they did help with the County Road 11 bridge and all of those kind of things, they're always very willing to help us with projects. Public health is another fund that we have, so a lot of that intergovernmental comes from the state and federal government. So you'll see that there is quite a decline in 2025 for intergovernmental. A lot of that was COVID funding from the state and federal government, so those things have declined. I guess, would you say like pre-pandemic, or?
Yeah, we're also fully offboarding or hopefully Title X funding.
Oh, that's right, yeah,
So that covered a lot of what was in 2024.
okay.
Sorry, Title X is family planning dollars.
We have a partnership with Summit Community Care Clinic for them to apply for that funding. So public health, the community care clinic and DHS are all in one location. But Dr. Lisa's releasing that from her down by the CMC turn, 735, South Highway 24, but we've really driven a lot of efficiencies there for folks who are, whether they're on public assistance programs or things like that, but that access to healthcare, and being able to pay for the healthcare right there has vastly improved a lot of people's access to healthcare, hopefully their own health. But we've broken down some of those barriers on social services, so it has been good for the community.
Tim, is that a lease to own agreement with Dr. Lisa?
She is open to it, her and Jeff are open to it, currently it is just a year-on-year lease. But she's open to doing that lease to own partnership, I think too, part of the thinking when we first started this lease was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And that it does work, so we kind of have a proven model now. Still working on the relationship with Summit Community Care Clinic, they have been a good partner, but they've gone through a lot of leadership changes over the past 2 years. But it's still a great space or a possibility to be able to recruit another healthcare provider, general MD, into this community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we had discussed on our lease.
Yeah.
So it's wrong about the details.
So they're open to it, but both sides kind of were like, let's see, we'll make this work first, and we have been able to make it work. Public health expenses. I should note as well that Dr. Lisa is public health medical advisor as well, so we do have Julie an APN. Alright, okay. So for some of those, whether it needs to be like medical decisions or getting your green light under her medical license or transferring higher clinical needs to her, we can, and then also to the care clinic. Alright. Then we have our special funds. So special funds are either coming from a vote of the people or are funded by mill levies. And they're varying, again, definitions of why we have these funds. But, so the big ones, vote of the people, that Lake County would provide $750,000 to the ambulance fund. Currently, that is with St. Vincent, but it also, the vote of the people is kind of agnostic on where it would be, so perhaps in the future there is a special EMT district or ambulance services are provided another way. It was written in that way, so the county has to take part of its mills to contribute towards the ambulance service in the community. And it's $750,000. 750 in, 750 out. Alright, so then we have our grants fund, so we have our grants and contributions, and what that looks like, so when we look at that intergovernmental line, right, so a lot of our grants are reimbursables, things like that, so meaning that Lake County floats that, if you will, for it, and then we get a reimbursement for it. So that's why you see that 951 in there, and then the transfer to help with that, so we float it, then we get the reimbursement for it.
And that, am I right, like this is sort of a relatively new approach or like a little more consistent, because I think before like
Yes.
grants would kind of like float within the departments that maybe wrote
Yes.
the grant,
Yep.
so it was kind of getting a little blended and hard to track sometimes in finance.
Yes, so we have fixed the grant fund and we have fixed this and stuck to GASB and GAP standards now, so we're gonna do that going forward. So all grants, you know, part of like for the accounting of it and then for auditing purposes of it, right? So we need to show it in the grants fund, right? So this is the way that we're doing it now, and then also showing like what the county's contribution to it is, and actually saying, yes, we have the money to either match this grant or also like float this, because knowing that it is a reimbursable
Right,
grant, like
right.
And that was part of the grant policy as well, you know, part of that thinking that you all adopted earlier this year was really trying to think through those things. I think there's a lot of times when folks see a grant, they're like, this is an amazing opportunity, and it's like, well, what's the ROI? How are we gonna float this? Can we actually afford this grant? Unless it's just like straight up a check, which is sweet, but very rarely happens.
Do we actually have the capacity to implement it?
Yes. Yes. And then looking at where our grant funds come out of, so, you know, some of it goes to cover our personnel costs, others providing professional services. The biggest chunk of that being Rocky's Rock, provided by Pros and Goal, and then various other areas that we can bill the grant to. And then professional services also includes the local transit and the transportation safety improvements. Our insurance fund, so the way that some of the county finance was set up is that we can, you know, create this insurance fund. This was kind of it's not a relic, but like if we were fully self-insured, this is the fund that we would use. So our health insurance, we are not, self-insured, but what we do reflect in here, is the cost of our casualty and property insurance, workman's comp, and other liability insurance, so we can actually, so we just did an accounting way, but also a way to like show the public and to show the board of like, so this is what it costs to insure the county. Health insurance costs are reflected in all of those personnel costs that you see.
What is our liability insurance run for the county?
It depends
Just
on,
overall.
it is, one second, we'll pull it up. So for casualty and liability, it is $713,777. And for workers' comp, it is $98,586. But that's also part of, you know, belonging to CTSI and belonging to that pool. So everybody like pays into those things to manage that, but those are our premiums.
Thank you.
Yep. And then that transfer in is transfers from various other funds to cover insurance costs related to other things. So there's airport insurance, there's landfill insurance, there's those other areas as well. You see our payment out. Alright, so looking at lodging tax, so these are the projections that Adam has put together for the lodging tax for 25, and then for going forward. So you see that, so you'll see the taxes, then you'll see the intergovernmental. The intergovernmental, this was the way to show how part of the accommodations tax from the city goes to fund the tourism panel. So we did kind of combine both of them, but you'll see the taxes and then that intergovernmental piece. Yes.
The city's budgeted $136,500
For
that revenue, that 2% or 1.9%, I believe.
for
The intergovernment, you have 178,700.
you talking about the housing fund, the 2A?
From 2A, yes.
I was gonna pull up their budget.
Well, I
Well, let me
mean, just take a
flag
look,
that and
yeah,
then,
I would assume those numbers should match. But it is a projection.
So does it even matter, cause it's like, yes, it's a projection, but they don't get to use any of that money anyway, just actuals get passed through
Who doesn't get to use
the
it?
city.
Right. I mean,
it's like,
it's just we're
like, whatever.
$40,000 off our
yeah,
projection, does that, I mean,
somebody's more conservative, or somebody doesn't know what they're doing,
just
Or
noting.
both. Yeah.
or both.
Let's put a pin in that, not assume the worst, we'll check in, will you ask Adam on that one, and then we pull up the city's budget and then chat it to me so I can look at it. And we're looking at lodging tax in this, so looking at tourism panel expenses, so those other expenses are things that, again, we didn't categorize into it based on that underlying schema, but those fall into various expenses, so which should fall into Adam's services, but if you look at like Meta or Google pushing or things like that, that's some of the other advertising expenses that the tourism panel does. The city doesn't?
No.
Okay, can you look at the December 3rd?
I can try to terrible. I've got a copy of this if you find it.
Tim, could you please say that a little bit louder? It was hard to hear online regarding the advertising.
That's what it goes to.
Yeah, just if you could say it again, it was just hard to hear you online.
Okay, so part of the other expenses goes towards the expenses for advertising on Meta, Google, various ways that the tourism panel markets Lake County.
Thank you.
Okay, we will beam in Adam, ask him some of those questions. Mine closure fund was a vote of the people to add funding to a mine closure fund. Alright. I don't know. Alright, mine closure fund was a vote of the people to set aside funding in the event of a drastic decline in valuation in Lake County. That was passed while the mine was closed and before the mine had reopened. Current 2024 fund balance is 3.7 million. There's no specific amount of money that the county needs to contribute to this. It's just that the county needs to contribute to this. So my proposal would be to contribute the $100,000, and then this is, held in an investment, or it's grouped in with all of our investments. So investment income can go to this as well, but I would recommend a contribution of $100,000.
I'm good with the lower amount.
Yeah.
Alright. Goes through the large, big of the special funds that we have. Still good to keep going? Yes,
I'm
okay.
here.
Alright, so on Tuesday, you heard from various Lake County organizations requesting Lake County government contributions to their causes. So we put together some options for you. We did set aside $150,000 of community contributions. So option one is contributing $100,000. It's kind of giving a haircut to all of the contribution amounts, but still contributing to all of the organizations. Option two, $130,000.
So just one on the amount requested, so Rocky Mountain was 80K, right? So it's like the total requested was 429.
Well, that Rocky Mountain EEC, along with the Child Care Coalition last year, asked for the $80,000, and that's what we did give to them, and then it went to funding all of those programmatic things. So for early child care this year, we don't have like a full, like an amount of what they would like, we just know that they would like.
And I didn't get the sense last year that they were gonna come and ask for that repeatedly. I thought that that was like a scholarship
It was.
opportunity for educating professionals to work there and incentivizing folks who work there and for families. So if they aren't asking us for any more money, then I wouldn't
Yeah.
allocate. I mean, I shot a suggested breakdown too of my own yesterday evening. And for that reason, I had 0 entered for Rocky Mountain, cause they didn't ask for anything. And I don't know that they spent down the dollars we gave them.
Yeah, I think part of it, we were able, the scheduling conflict to try and get them with like where they are and what they've done with it. And then the transition with some of the BAG staff leading that funding. But it did, you were right, it did go to the to scholarships to get folks training and things to get their whether licensure to, home
Right.
childcare, that kind of stuff, or to help build up, like full circle, or not full circle, Bright Starts staff, helping folks get those trainings and that kind of stuff is what it went towards.
Do we wanna work through this in real time now?
We sure do.
Okay, I just saw you click going over the next.
Well, I would, and then option three is spending the
okay,
whole
okay.
$150,000. And I apologize that we've been having an issue with OneDrive this morning, so like the slide deck in your packet is from yesterday. So however you wanna do it, I think these slides should be in your packet. We made changes this morning, so up to, leave it to the board to have a discussion.
Sarah, thanks for sending around your proposed amounts, I had some thoughts on those. First of all, the top line, I'd like us to come in at the 150,000, that's already quite a lot, it's forced by ARPA and other funding being decreased, but I don't wanna, it's gonna be a tough haircut for folks, even at 150,000, so I'd like to keep it at 150, not 100. So maybe start there, I think.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Okay. I thought, okay, so these numbers. So yeah, so that haircut, I think that advocates number, Sarah, I know you would, but I don't know if we wanna pull that up to, I.
Sure.
Yeah, I hear you that they presented some.
Well, what I will
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
is what I heard was, we spent a lot of money across our grants that we maybe shouldn't have, and we needed to have a conversation about that, and we're here to ask you for some money. Because we did that, so for that reason, I didn't allocate, and going through the entire list, I didn't allocate anything towards the advocates.
Yeah, I heard that a tiny bit differently, like I appreciate them admitting to some issues. And I don't wanna, I'm comfortable keeping their, haircutted amount in,
Yeah, I am too.
I don't wanna penalize them for admitting, being honest.
Honesty is good, but
Right.
doesn't mean,
Yeah, I don't think it should be zeroed out.
And I think that, that's a huge service to the county, residents that we know is an issue. for. So, I think the other, like, going down the list, and yeah, the BDC is like about the right haircut amount, C4 seems like that's a larger haircut, like, maybe I'm doing the math wrong, but I thought they'd be more like in the 20s.
Well, I appreciated them presenting us with three tiers of requests, 15,000, 20,000, and was it 30,000 or 40,000? And they were listed in priority, is what I understood Richie to say. And so for that reason, I slated $15,000 in there to get them for that first highest priority request.
Okay, then I think I misunderstood, so, but their total request was 75.
Total request was
Okay,
75.
so it's not, yeah, okay.
And I didn't think
I-
any of it was like, we need this for operating, it was like, we want to provide extra incentives for engaging in this program, and then if they're engaged, we wanna provide another, the $20,000 is for like an additional list of incentives or rebates to offer people to enhance the grant funding that they already had.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that clarification, and I think I maybe missed that in listening to the video of that work session. So, yeah, if that 75 has tiers of priority, maybe a little bit of a bigger haircut is okay.
Do they have any materials for us? We can't remember.
Yeah,
15, 20, and 40,
you can pull up.
Should be in your work session packet.
yeah.
What?
There's a folder for community contributions.
Oh, there's a folder called community contributions. In the special meeting.
I know that their request was higher, I think we kept it at 17 just because there were additional funds that the BOCC has already allocated this year for different maintenance and other things that they have prioritized. And so, and also just trying to keep things somewhat fair.
I appreciate that, and I also would just like cut the extra 2,000 off of it and just meet their first, let's see, where is it? Okay. $15,000 to conduct 100 home energy audits, helping residents identify solutions to high energy costs. $20,000 to support 50 energy efficiency improvement rebates for those who participate in the audits, and $40,000 for the Energy Assistance Fund to support local contractors making urgent safety improvements for income qualifying households.
I mean, I would say we probably don't need to get too in the weeds of whether we're funding like all of their first tier or the right haircutted amount of their full tiers or what, you know, I think I can live with that amount that's up there. And in some sense, it's C4, I mean, it can just be C4's call about how they wanna distribute that across their priorities.
I think for me, the largest contribution I noted in my list was to the community fund. They asked for 60,000, and I listed, contributing 50 to them, both for $40,000 of administrative and operational costs. And then they had asked for the $40,000 for administrative and 20 for the grant, staff person, I think that they have online, which has proven, in my experience, pretty helpful across the community. So that was the largest contribution, that I had on my list, proposing a contribution of $50,000 to the community fund. So it definitely, I mean, my list definitely wasn't like everybody gets
Yeah.
17,000.
No, that's right, I think that across the board haircut's a good place to start, cause that's where we need to end up, but yeah, this discussion's good to make some adjustments.
And I think I would, St. George does amazing work, they asked for that 25,000, I didn't hear that like without it, work would not continue either, so for that reason, I had the suggested allocation to St. George of 15,000, so that more of those dollars could go to, the community fund.
I don't know, I think St. George is not so more critical than the community fund. I don't foresee any decrease in food costs, if anything, they're gonna go up.
I guess it would have been interesting to ask all the other nonprofit groups how often they utilize the community funds grant writer, cause Katie has
Right.
brought in a lot of money. to
She's
this
brought in a
community.
lot of money,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, almost all of these are under the community fund, I think have a fund under all the nonprofit groups have a fund under the community fund.
right, and I think, I mean, that's just an important side point is like whatever allocation we end up on with the community fund, that's not pass-through dollars going to other nonprofits that are already on this list. It's either their, as you were saying, it's their core operational admin dollars or the grant funding position that more than pays for itself.
And as John had said, I mean, a lot of what he seeks funding for,
Yeah.
as you know,
Yeah,
with that local support helps the application.
yeah, so knowing, I mean, Sarah, I'm aligned with you on the community unfunding a high, like closer to the full amount for the community fund. I think for these smaller nonprofits, it's super hard to raise money for their sort of like core operating expenses, and then yeah, that grant writing support is paying for itself. But I also had some confusion, and again, sorry for not being in person to ask these questions earlier, like the Rocky Mountain ECC, are we okay further reducing that?
I think you can have that at 0 because they didn't actually submit a request to us, and I'm not sure that they spent the dollars down that we allocated from last year.
Which can help balance the additional community fund. Is someone tracking this in a live spreadsheet? Excellent, thank you.
Do you want me to say what I've heard so far?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I have advocates at 17 still, 15 for the small business development center, 15 for C4, 50 for the community fund, 15 for St. George, and 0 for Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Coalition Center. And you're at 112,000. So I still don't have any numbers for Full Circle, the Tabor, or Tree Top.
You know, I'd like to see St. George at 25.
Okay, let's put in that, and I mean, maybe just, well,
And I think if you're gonna zero out the Rocky Mountain ECC, send it up to Full Circle.
full circle or to balance the community fund addition? Well, let's,
I don't agree with the community fund at 50,000, but that's just me.
okay. Well, let's get a number in for everything and see where we are on the delta from 150.
So, one second. Okay, so advocates at 17, small business development center 15, C4 at 15,
Hold on, please.
sorry,
SBDC, okay.
full circle.
SBDC 15
Mhm.
you have, okay.
C4 at 15, full circle at 15, community fund at 50, St. George at 25, Tabor at 15, nothing for Rocky Mountain, and then 15 for Treetop. You are overspent, you're at 167,000, so you need to cut $17,000 somewhere.
For the community fund.
Can we talk about treetop for a second, cause I feel like that's something that I'm least familiar with, and that's a pretty big allocation. And actually like, I mean, just trying to be fair, that 15 as a percentage of their requested is bigger, so,
Who are they?
yeah.
So Treetop works out of Breckenridge. They do forensic interviewing for kids involved in child welfare or the criminal justice system. I will say DHS uses them all the time.
Yeah.
They're trauma informed.
I am,
You
thank
remember
you,
them?
I had forgotten the name, that was a amazing and terrible presentation. The work they do, holy cow. Yeah.
So you could cut, sorry, I know this is your meeting, I'm just giving some
Yeah,
options.
no, thanks, yeah.
All of the other nonprofits are like C4 Full Circle are at 17, so I could move advocates down to 17 or to 15 from 17. So that they're the same as C4's Full Circle.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut community fund to 40, that pretty much gets you there.
And zero on Rocky Mountain
Yeah.
BCC.
What's the amount for treetop?
15.
15? Okay.
So if you cut advocates down to 15,000 and community fund down to 40, you'd be 5K over, so you'd be at 155K. So you could maybe cut St. George down to 20 instead of 25.
I was looking at.
I guess, yeah, I'd
I'm okay
rather,
with that.
I'd rather do the 50 for Lake County Community Fund and like 15 for St. George.
I agree with the scenario that you just said. I don't wanna see St. George cut down any further. And I'm okay with 40 grand for the community fund.
So sorry, so
So I think it was advocates 15, C4 15, Full Circle 15, Lake County Community Fund 40, St. George 25,
20.
20. Tabor 15, SBDC 15, and Treetop 15.
I mean,
And that is 150. I can live with that.
I can live with that. And say again, this is a rough reduction from what we've been able to do in the last few years with COVID recovery funds. Okay.
Cool. Alright.
Thanks, everyone. And yeah, sorry to take the time to do that in real time. Last minute.
Necessary, that's good.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Alright. General fund spend down. Current general fund balance is a little over 13 million. You had committed $5 million to the courthouse and jail renovation, which you'll see will leave general fund balance a little over 8. You have given approval for staff to negotiate with the school district for up to $1.2 million for the sale of real property to assist with their financial situation. Lead to a general fund reserve balance of 6.8. I think those two are flipped.
Oh, yeah.
So the 6.8 and the 5.8 are flipped. Just do that in your head. Where we're at with the school district, they had discussed the county's proposal at their regular meeting on Monday night. Sent back part of the counter offer, so Lauren can walk through part of the counter offer. So there's an opportunity for the commissioners to make a decision on the funding amounts for that. As a reminder, the general fund reserve policy amount is currently a little over $2 million, so still be a decent general fund reserve balance of 5.8 million should you spend down 6.2.
Yeah, so do you wanna go into the difference between the 1.2 million and 950?
Sure. So all these documents are in your packet under a folder called LCSD land purchase. So the counter offer, and exchange are being here, so you can clarify anything if you need to. The counter offer came in as the Harrison strip. They would sell us the northern half of that and then give us an easement for the southern half. Paired that with the 4 triangles in the parcel of land just to the south of where we're building right now on East Third. All of that
So down kind of along Federico Field.
Yeah. For $950,000. The second option is they would offer the 2 small triangles, the land would have to be subdivided just further south between Chestnut and Second, for an additional $250,000 with a priority for any land development or housing development that went there for school district employees for an additional $250,000. So that would get you at 1.2 million. Should you not take the Harrison and the second and third land parcel, they would be open to selling just those 2 small parcels without prioritization for school district employees for $450,000. That doesn't seem like an option for us since Harrison is our priority. So it's really, do you wanna move forward with the full 1.2 and get all 3 land parcels? Do you wanna just do Harrison and then the 4 triangles between second and third for 950? Or do you want to do another offer and just do Harrison?
I mean, I think we should purchase what we need versus what we want. That's just my take on this.
So focus first and foremost on just the Harrison.
Harrison, I mean, we need
Parcels.
Harrison, that's,
Yeah.
there's no question about that.
And sorry, can you re-say what's, or do we have an amount for?
So we did an appraisal of Harrison, it would be purchasing the entire parcel, which is not, I don't think the school district is currently open to that, they may be.
Oh, okay.
That was appraised at $315,000. You could do a counter offer of, we'll give you $315,000 for just the northern part of that land and then an easement on the southern half. And that would be what we need to move forward with development on Harrison.
Can I just ask, and I sent a response to you because I was like, oh, I'm not sure I read the school's proposal that way, but Jim, does Lauren's summary, okay, with the Harrison and the few triangle parcels
all packaged together at $950.
at $950, okay. I would support that. I do think that while those triangle parcels are not necessary for the Harrison development, I think it's gonna be really important to have those to use as other incentives for community development in general, whether or not we use those across private applicants and development endeavors, or we add those in the future to any continued public development that we might be able to do. So I would be happy to start at that point, starting point.
I'm not trying to dissuade you, just giving you all the information that we
Yeah.
know. Jackie and Michael Yerman did say we would have to get additional grant funding
Yes.
to move utilities and to do remediation work on that parcel of land, so it would be starting from ground zero again.
Yep, no, unfortunately, we did talk about that when we were hoping to have that in our planning of the units beginning. But there are other opportunities along that corridor there that would be activated with in a good partnership with the county, I think.
In the 950 with those parcels down that corridor alongside Federico, sorry, can you remind me, do those parcel at the 950 counter offer, does that come with constraints restricting them to affordable housing or with, okay, so I mean, just to come back to your statement, that could be for private development
Yeah.
too. Just wanna make sure that there weren't constraints on that.
I mean, and it could be something that we use in the development of Harrison Avenue even, you know, we don't really know what that entire development package looks like or the partnership package with the development at Harrison. I mean, it could be that those could be some negotiation offering of trying to get a developer or multiple developers at Harrison Avenue.
Something that factors into my mind, and if I could ask the school district folks a question, I should have gotten ahead of this and asked this privately, so don't feel you have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable or don't have an answer that you feel the board has spoken in on, but if we go with begin to work on like a smaller initial transfer that's sort of just the sort of Harrison parcels in a mutually agreeable way, is that dollar figure helpful for you? Or, well,
As far as,
we
like, the
haven't agreed on that, but like,
appraisal
if,
of the
yeah,
Harrison
so I
parcel?
mean, if we just work on the parcels that are part of the Harrison master plan and don't include
The one parcel.
sorry,
The one near Federico.
the ones near
Just
Federico,
in the-
recognizing that we haven't agreed on an exact dollar figure for that, but you can sort of, it will be less than 950. I guess the question I'm asking is the school part of the purpose for moving on this is to help the school district financially. And I don't want to do a smaller amount if that's gonna cause big problems for the school district. So I don't know if you.
It's not gonna cause problems so much as it's not gonna help solve.
Yeah.
Like what's helpful?
So,
Yeah,
guys, can I weigh in?
please.
Okay, thanks. Hi, sorry I'm not there in person. Jeff, I appreciate the question. I think that there's a reason that we presented that sort of first package as a complete offer. And I think as soon as you tease that apart, I think we have to go back to the board because it was sort of presented as like value to you, value to us, right? And we took your appraisal on the Oro Drive lots and averaged them with our appraisal, even though ours was higher. I think we really tried to meet you in the middle with the 950, given that you had already made an offer or a preliminary letter of interest on those parcels. So I think we felt like those parcels near Federico are sort of inherent to the 950 sort of package deal. And if you want to carve only the Harrison pieces out, I mean, we're gonna have to go back to the board and sort of start from scratch. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and again, sorry to put you on the spot with an awkward question in real time. So that's very helpful to say, what you said is very helpful, for me. So having said all that, for me, I'm comfortable with the 950 line item and pursuing that.
I agree.
And I hear you, Hal, on like not wanting to go overboard and bite off more than we can chew, but I think it's not, there is in our decision to move forward on this, there was supporting affordable housing, but there was also a desire to help the community in supporting the school district. And it's not supporting, it's not a handout, it's like, I mean, it's a fair market value transfer.
And I really do wanna express our gratitude, you know, you guys have really been working with us on this, and Lauren and Tim have been amazing. And I think like between our donation of the lots on Third Street and this offer and sort of package, benefit you, benefit us, I just wanna say that I think our collaboration for all of this has been really awesome, and we're very, very grateful.
Thanks, Kate, yeah, and maybe for me to expand on like what I said before on the 950, and I think while it does draw down the general fund, it is securing an asset that's staying in local ownership, local government ownership, public ownership. That whether it's for affordable housing, or like you said, Sarah, whether it's as part of a private development down the road, you know, it's an asset that's staying in the community.
Can I also add though, I have a question on the request for school district employees, some of the language, I might suggest, like, I think it's fair on the Harrison, I mean, to incorporate, I mean, it's not, I guess you're not donating the land, so I don't know if you wanna have a further conversation over like incorporating prioritization of school district employees for development of Harrison.
Yeah, and Sarah, I mean, we very explicitly didn't include that, right? That's only part of that sort of second package. So we, of course, we would love to have that conversation, but we don't have that expectation.
Okay.
If it's gonna cause a problem here, but if you're willing to offer it, I think our teachers and staff would appreciate that.
I mean, your teachers and staff are going to be, yeah, they're going to be eligible for you know, whatever is gets developed on Harrison Avenue for sure. And I don't mind including that. I don't know what that portion looks like, you know, with our contributions right now across, is it Parkville, the school district and the county. I think we have the 6 units of the 24 that we're currently developing for the pool of those 3 contributors. And how many acres is the northern part of that?
Oh, probably around 1 or
Just the
2,
skirt part of it,
yeah.
maybe about
1 or 2 acres, okay, well, and assuming, yeah, I don't know, I mean, a $400,000, maybe that particular parcel value in an 11 acre, I mean, umpteen million dollar overall project, we might get one, I don't know, might not be worth the brain damage at this point in time.
I trust them.
Sarah, for us online,
Yeah.
could you state it a little bit louder so what was said in the room?
We're discussing the conversation but that was applied to the different proposal, the different set of parcels regarding then the process of building public housing on there and going through the tier process of having a first right of refusal, if you will, for those partners who are contributing. They have usually have a first right of refusal for their employees to get a first shot at the opportunity for housing. But
Thank you.
it wouldn't, I don't think, might not, I don't know, might not apply to this situation.
Yeah.
So
you said it might not apply the first right of refusal to this situation. It might not apply. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay.
But I agree with I'd like to move forward with that.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Yes. Great.
Yeah. And recognize the
Dissenting, yeah.
dissenting view. Okay. Also, just an editorial comment on the general fund spend down, I mean, that does, and to come back to Matt Bullock's comment at the beginning, comment at the beginning, I mean, this does look like a big drawdown of the general fund, but I sort of recall, as we've said in some of our work sessions leading up to this, we built up the general fund so that we could catch up on major deferred maintenance of our buildings. So, in my view, like this spend down on the renovation is what we built the fund up for, so.
And all these other economic development anticipated opportunities, I mean, these all, to me, I feel fall well within the definition of the activity of what we're doing. And yeah, these decisions aren't made with 4 and 8 years of investment into into those topics, so definitely strategic.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
You're welcome. Okay. Bringing back mill levy scenarios, for the board to consider what that looks like. There are, my standard talking points, we work part of a regional, statewide, and national economic picture. Will impact, Lake County government and our operations. Our state, is probably not done tinkering with or changing or completely altering property taxing structures. Which leads me for a request for the board to discuss or really think about, so starting next year, local governments, well, county governments, put that way, there's exceptions for each different kind of local governments, but county governments, revenues can only grow at 5.5% based off of the prior year's revenues. So if you're, thinking through that, strategically, there's a benefit to the future of this organization or even, future board, right? It might be a strategic move to have a moderate increase in the mill amount so that, in future out years for growth, Lake County government might not be as constricted. So in talking with Assessor Wadsworth, as of now, and this is preliminary, but next year is a revaluation year. He's anticipating like 15% for residential.
Increase?
In valuation. And so, not to handcuff new commissioners to an arbitrary 5.5% amount set by the state legislature, would be worthwhile having a discussion on a mill levy scenario and what that looks like for the future of the organization. I think there is, this board has shown it, when inflation and property taxes and everything was so high, this board did reduce the mill levy. So I think there are varying ways that, there is trust in local elected officials to do the best for their community. But there's also a strategic decision point for the commissioners to make going forward and what that 5.5% cap looks like, and things like that. So that is why I bring back the mill levy scenarios for your consideration.
And so it'll be,
we can might be a better, this might be a better scenario for you to look at.
so we were at that max 41.99.
In
And
2020.
And we lowered it to 38 to soften the blow of that big property tax increase year.
And part of the rationale when the commissioners did max out the mills was banking money for the courthouse or community justice center. Here we are today, it'll be courthouse renovations, but part of that was the rationale that you had done that.
Yeah, should just correct what, we temporarily reduced the mills to 38.
Yes.
So we do not have to go back to the voters to shift it back.
Right.
So this discussion you're teeing up is not dependent on going back to the voters, it's a decision of the BOCC.
Correct.
Do we have the, what is the anticipated mill value with the 15% increase of valuation? Or leaving it at 38 for say for a projected 2026 revenue, if we left it at 38 mils.
Give me,
I'm trying to, I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm just trying to poke holes in it as far as, is it like 6 and 1/2 dozen and the other, us, increasing our mills or the valuation going up?
I don't think that 15% would ever be realized though, cause by law, we would only be able to increase by 5%, 5.5%. You know what I mean?
Okay, so that, yeah, no, this is
So
what
if our
I want
base is
us
higher,
all to be
then we
thinking about
can-
that, and okay, it doesn't matter, cause whatever the base is, you can only increase by 5.5%, so
Yeah,
the real leverage, and it truly is, what is your base, where do
What's
we
your base
start
going
from,
into it?
and
Yeah.
and that gives you, which is concerning.
Yeah, I mean, the legislation will lower our assessed value, plus put a cap on how much we can grow.
Yep.
So voters will not realize, residents will not realize that 15% next year, they'll only max go to 5.5. So that's where we start off is gonna be
Yep.
how far you can grow up.
Yep. You don't have to give me that answer.
okay.
Mm,
I feel like, so I may not be factoring in everything here, but I think like where I came into this discussion is like wanting to keep it at the 38. So to give future BOCCs some headroom, it always felt a little stressful for me to have our mills maxed out. You know, and then if any decline in revenue happened, you don't have that headroom. Like you just can only take that out of reducing staff, basically, like programs, you know, or other, you know, or continuing to defer maintenance, et cetera. So to me, it felt good to be leaving some headroom on the mills. And keeping it at that temporary reduction to 38. I realize there's like a lot of complicated moving pieces on what the state is gonna do to assess valuation or other things they're gonna continue to tinker with, let alone more unfunded mandates.
Can I add to your comment though?
Please, yeah.
Because, I mean, I just want to make it explicitly clear, I mean, yes, and if we were budgeting and making an expense budget that matched maxing out the mills, right? We were very deliberate and thoughtful of not, right, I didn't share that angst because there was the room and we were planning, we were not matching our projected revenues with an equal expense budget. You know, we had a different purpose for that, so I just wanna give us a little more credit than that.
Yeah, no, I yes. No, it wasn't,
I would
Raising the
love to
mill would
open
be
it up
easier
for
for
Yeah.
comments if you want.
please.
easier for you guys to do on your way out. And scenario 3 would almost cover that interest and principal payment of the remodel.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the first part of your comment, Matt?
And it would be much easier for you guys to do it now than for us to do it later.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
So you can about blow
Yep.
that and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that this is a really important strategic move, and it's not one that we shouldn't, take advantage of. I think I am willing to increase to an amount comfortable with the rest of the board. If we wanna start with scenario 3, I will propose, that we consider, bumping the mills up to 39.5.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that, and Sarah, back to your point about what we've done the last couple of years is, you know, that difference we have been squirreling away, so as long as, I mean, I'm comfortable with one of the other scenarios with raising the mills back up above 38, as long as we don't then sneak more stuff into the budget.
No, I think that's
I
why.
retract my word sneak, as long as we don't like
Yeah,
consciously put
well, I
it-
mean, I think that's why
you know.
consciously this was the
Yeah,
last
You're approving the
conversation to
budget
have.
today, yes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
yes.
I feel good about that decision, I can live with that,
Scenario 3?
yes,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that too.
I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
Again, because we're not living beyond our means, we're, you know, it's just a, yeah.
and there will be, I mean, I would even offer any other suggestion from the three of you sitting in the room on increasing that more, because there will be unfunded mandates from the state, there will be other things that you will face. And so, I would love Chair to offer if there are
Yeah, no,
other
I think we've opened up,
thoughts from the
for-
commissioners-elect on this decision.
I think scenario 3 strikes a good balance of not being completely unprepared for unfunded mandates that could be rolling in down the road.
Okay.
I think 2025, 2026 is gonna be really hard for our community. And it will be, I would much rather have an opportunity to go up higher to help equitably fill those problems that we're going to see arise, as opposed to maxing out in 2025. I definitely would appreciate room to be able to respond to the problems that we're gonna see in the next 2 years.
So you think scenario 3 gives you enough headroom for that?
It does, and I also appreciate Matt's input about the principle for the investment that's planned.
Yeah.
So that also helps me feel comfortable about like living within our means with that
Yeah.
investment as well. So thanks for asking.
As long as it's acknowledged that that was a temporary decrease, expressed that I wasn't implying that I'm for it, I was making a suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, no, and it is, we have had that temporary credit to our mill reduction. And that is something that's in the very clear table in our budget message and our budget. So make sure that
And we
remains.
try to say it again in every
Staff
recorded
knows
meeting.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
I mean, I have been in a budget meeting where that was not. The language was not correct, it hasn't been in the last 3 years, but I was like, wait a second, so
Yeah.
definitely something, one of the details to keep an eye on. That sounds like scenario 3 we are okay
Yeah.
with, alright,
Great.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome. So, those of you who haven't sat through one of my budget presentations before, my first one lasted 7.5 hours.
Everything's gotten more efficient.
Little quicker. And
We had, just before we move on, sorry, you mentioned taking more public comment, I mean, I think we can.
Oh yeah, we'd have to do that.
We can open up for additional public comment if folks online want to
and just to
raise their hand, or I think it's also just a, go ahead, Tim.
Just to clarify, you opened budget public comment on October 15th. Today is the day that we will be closing it, so
Yeah,
yes, so that's just want to acknowledge that it's been open.
It has been open, you are right.
Yeah.
Our preliminary, since our preliminary budget in October has been
Yeah.
posted.
No, yeah,
I
yes,
just had a question. Can we ask a question?
Yeah, at public comment, I think.
So I can.
At-
I believe it
at-
was, what,
Ryan, at
hang on one
public
second.
comment.
what does that mean?
Well, we're gonna figure that out in 1 second.
Oh.
So, Tim, do you wanna keep presenting more stuff, or is this a good moment
No,
and
this
fellow
is-
commissioners to take some final public comment?
Yes, we're still on agenda item number 1. So yes.
Before I do,
Yes, take
Are you good?
action.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Ryan, so yeah, so go ahead, we can take public comment, I for sure ask it as a question, you know, we'll we'll see what the question is and see what we can
Yep.
do to give you a response.
I believe it's the new incoming commissioner, Elsa, that had said this a few minutes ago.
Can you, just for point of order, can you state your name and address, please? Anyone who
Yep.
would like to make public comment, thank you.
Yep, Ryan. And I was wondering about just, what problems in the future
Okay,
Elsa was
Ryan.
talking about.
Can you get, just for public record, can you give full name and address in the county?
I live in Lake County, but I'm not comfortable giving my full name or address.
Board, are we okay with that?
I suppose, I don't know, that's fine.
No, this isn't a particularly contentious issue, I mean, why not give an address?
I don't know.
I'm just curious about what problems. I'm just, I'm now kind of concerned, nervous, worried, and was just hoping for some clarification to appease some of those nerves.
Yeah, it is, Ryan, it is completely standard practice that in public comment, whether it's the county or the city, that people give their name for the record and identify themselves, as being residents.
Well, I am a Lake County resident.
Yeah, that, I believe you, but our standard practice and standard practice of public entities is to collect that information.
So that means you guys won't answer the question without me saying that.
I stand with Ryan, he should be able to speak.
Thank you.
I appreciate that comment too, but the way things are run is, we don't just accept essentially anonymous comments from the community in this setting.
And if we set that precedent,
Yeah.
and anybody else, it's gonna open up a can of worms.
I think we have made an exception recently in some of the discussions around immigration. I think that was probably not a good precedent for us to have even made that exception. But understand the sensitivities in the community around that, but I think with a comment on the budget, I just don't see. Yeah, I mean, as Commissioner Edwards just said, I mean, it's the public budget, we're not really comfortable accepting anonymous comments.
Okay. Fair enough. For the record, it was a question though, not a comment. Thank you.
Well, okay. More than happy to talk offline and try to resolve that with you if you're more comfortable in that setting. Okay. Anyone else want to raise their hand to make a public comment? Matt, go ahead.
When will we see
And Matt.
Matt Bullock, Lake County Commissioner-elect? When will we see the audit? Is there a date set for that, or when are we gonna see that in? Are your funds being held in lieu of this audit as some have opined statutorily?
Sure, I can answer that.
Yeah. Sure.
Take crack.
Sure, so part of what has held up the audit is all of the fundamental changes that we have made in Lake County in our budgeting process and our financial process. So everything will be to the auditor for cash fund reconciliations by the end of today. So within 2 weeks, we should have a completed audit, and I'm not including the holiday in that, but the auditors could work faster, that's the last piece that they've been waiting for. To clarify on when it says that the Office of the State Auditor, through the Division of Property Taxation or through the Department of Revenue, freezes the county's funds, that is any new funds. So that would be, we've already collected all of our property taxes for this year, so it would be, the November sales taxes, that we just, realized, which was $433,000, but that is the only thing it impacts. It does not actually impact any of Lake County government's operating funds.
Because we have a healthy general fund or other funds.
Well, right, we have a healthy general fund, all of that. The state can't touch those funds, what the delay in the audit is. And we're joined by many counties and cities across the state in having a delayed audit. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but just that it's not out of the normal. Is that any of those new funds are held at the state. So it's not impacting any of our operational funds, it is not really even impacting the 2025 budget because we'll have the audit done, presented before the board, discussion of any findings, and approved and accepted by the board into the Department of Revenue and Department of Local Affairs very soon, and then we're done. And then everything we've done this year over the past 2.5 years in changing finance and our budgeting practices and all that, this will be, we are now on the course for meeting we will have next year's audit done probably in August, so there's a July deadline and then an extension to September, but we have our new finance director on board, full finance team, all of that. Great new auditors who are working with us through this. Auditors are friends, not foes. But yes, it is coming.
Thanks, Matt. Elsa.
My name's Elsa Tharp. I'm a commissioner-elect and I live at 315 Chestnut Street. And I just wanted to clarify that, especially from the tourism point of view, we're anticipating in Colorado and regionally in the West that there will be a decline in tourism for Colorado, and that comes from OEDIT, our Office of Economic Development and Tourism, and so with fewer folks coming to Colorado, that means that all of the mountain towns, mountain resort communities will be competing for a smaller group of tourists. And many of the people in our community, whether they live and work in Lake County or work outside of Lake County, a lot of us our labor earns money from the tourism industry. So when I say that we anticipate hardship in the next few years, that's coming from a decline in our industry anticipated. So not only for municipal and government agencies will we see a decline in our money coming in, but also for individual families, we're going to see less and less money being earned by the people who live here. So that will trickle down and we'll have more needs coming from government services that are mandated but potentially not financed from the state. So we will have to pull more money from our local government coffers to support that. And so when I was saying we're gonna experience hardships, I'm not trying to incite fear, I'm trying to be realistic and responsible with how we're educating everyone to prepare for that and also how we ourselves are preparing for that as governments.
And that's not even taking into consideration the potential issues surrounding the proposed mass deportations of people and how that's gonna affect the labor force.
Yeah,
And the potential chaos and displacement and things around that.
Yes.
And again, it's not inciting fear, it's just looking at these things with both eyes open.
Yeah, there will be a lot of strain on our resources in the coming years. And I think that it's fair to be eyes wide open about that and prepared for it, and to also be compassionate about how that will affect some people more than others.
Great. Yeah, it's a very big discussion.
Totally, it was asked and
Yeah,
I can do
yeah.
that.
For sure. Anyone else in the room or online?
Hi, yes, I'd like to make a comment as Jane Q. Public of Lake County, Colorado. That is an appropriate way in which we may redress our government. Thank you. My concern, of course, is the expanded work to be done at the airport. Is that to subsidize any further let's see, we're calling it the potential for sanctuary city and FEMA to land here. And I also want to ask future Commissioner Bullock regarding, I thought there was a petition to recall someone who may or may not have been elected in a challenging position. And I thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone's scrutiny on this budget, and that we really should not speak to future commissioners' budgets until they are fully in place. And it is important that we are heard. And thank you for your time. Jane Q. Public signing off. Any John Q. Publics who wish to speak, I'd love to hear from them.
That is not your call to make, thank you very much. And well, we'll move on. If you have a question for Commissioner-elect, you can contact them separately. This is not the meeting to ask them questions. And I'm not even quite sure I understood what your first question was, but there's nothing in the budget that we're considering in this meeting that has additional expenses at the airport for cooperation with whatever you mentioned, so we'll just move on from that. Okay with that?
Yeah, I guess I'll just maybe add, an investment at the airport on, two bigger things we've talked about is investing in, conceptual planning for community and outside requests of hangar development, which brings revenue through the airport, and also an investment on a de-icing machine, which is going to be paid back to the general fund by the airport fund, which should also bring in significant revenues to the airport. And I'll note that the airport is a self-sustaining fund and operation.
Yeah. Okay. I think with that, do we need to formally close the public comment period, or is that, okay, so.
Yeah, if we have no other
Oh, yeah, sorry.
comments,
We
okay.
had that
I
open.
don't see any in the room.
Yeah.
I'll move to close the public input portion of our 2025 budget hearing.
Second your motion.
Great. Any further comments or questions before taking a vote on that?
Nothing from
Seeing
me.
none, call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the public comment portion is closed.
Answer that if you want.
Sure, yeah,
Sure, Melanie, yes, we do read the comment section to your question about expanding Medicaid or Medicare ever an option. Those are not controlled at the county level, those are controlled and funded by the federal government, specifically for Medicare. And then there is some funding from the state government that goes to that, but Lake County government has no say over expansion of Medicaid or Medicare.
okay, thanks, Tim.
Can we take 10-minute break?
Sure.
Move into items
So-
2 and 3.
Well, you still need to, you closed the public comment, so we'll come back and adopt
Oh, yes.
the
we need to make
resolution
that.
and then 2 and 3. So, but if we could take a few minute break, that would be
Okay,
appreciated.
so it's 11:38, so 10 minutes.
10 minutes, thank you. there? We are back. I would. So the commissioners have closed public comment that was open on October 15th for Lake County's budget 2025. So to close out, agenda item number 1 would be to read into the record resolution 2024-42. And I would ask that you read the full resolution instead of just the title, since it is the budget and we are doing a current general fund balance spend down for the courthouse and for Lake County School District. So I just want, please.
Okay. I can pull that up, I will do that.
There's the one in the packet.
The one in the packet is the one.
I noticed that. Sure. Well, I know, I'm reading.
Getting there. They're both the same, Tim, the PDF and the Word?
Use the word, yeah, but yes, we are the same, yes. The board seems that we need to change this resolution, let's use the word.
I got it,
Okay,
okay,
Wait, what?
pull it up,
use the word doc.
alright. Okay, I'll read the resolution into the record if that's okay with the
great.
chair, alright. So the resolution for our consideration of the final adoption of our 2025 budget, is, resolution number 24-42. The annual appropriation budget adoption and resolution for the fiscal year 2025. Whereas the board adopted resolution 2024-33, a resolution to approve the financing of the certificate of participation, or COP, for the renovation of the Lake County Government Jail and Courthouse. And whereas the board approved an $8 million COP payment at the special meeting on December 6th, 2024. And whereas the board approved a contribution from the current general fund balance of $5 million at the special meeting on December 6th, 2024 in support of the renovation of the Lake County Jail and Courthouse. And whereas the board established a jail and courthouse renovation fund to manage debt service and ensure accurate accounting for the project's activities. And whereas the board approved a purchase of Lake County School District property in the amount of $950,000 from the general fund reserve at the special meeting on December 6th, 2024. Now, December 12th, 13th, it's the 13th. December 13th, 2024. Now let it be resolved that the various sums as set forth in the budget marked and identified as Exhibit A, Lake County Government 2025 budget, be the same hereby appropriated to the various funds for the purposes stated therein, and such budget is adopted. Read, passed, and adopted at a special meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners on this 13th day of December 2024. I'll move to approve resolution 24-42 as read into the record.
I'll second your motion.
Final comments or discussion?
Nothing from me, I don't think, thank you for the conversation today. Thank you, staff, for all the preparation over the years. Much appreciated.
Yes. Call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, resolution 2024-42, the annual appropriation budget adoption and resolution for the fiscal year 2025 is approved.
Thank you. We will work on things this afternoon, team making the changes that we discussed today. And we'll get things up on the website. We'll also do a press release and it will be available as a hard copy in the clerk and recorder's office for anybody to inspect. So today's presentation, the line by line, everything. Just ask
Thank
me
you.
Cindy.
Thanks.
Okay. So that closes out.
That closed
Item
out
one.
agenda item number 1. Alright. Resolution 2024-43 is the certification of mill levy for Lake County. So this is for Lake County government. So as per the previous discussion, the commissioners like to set a mill levy rate at 39.5, let's just make it 500. Was that, as you will remember, throughout 2024, as Assessor Wadsworth cleaned up things, there was a number of abatements that the County Board of Equalization had approved and gone through. So that reduces that amount, but what would be actualized revenue. Looking at the mill levy table, scenario table, you will see what we have talked about previously. So general fund allocation, human services, ambulance fund, CAPAC fund, insurance fund, mine closure fund, adding up to the total mills assessed. So that would be the contributions for each one. Sorry, Liz, I just wanna double check something. I think on the revenue side is what we had budgeted, the 11.4 million.
Yes.
Okay.
What is your question?
Well,
Whether that isn't the right number?
no, that is the budget for 2025 is the 11.4 million. I'm just with the total mills assessed number, that difference. The 39 minus the 35 of just wanting to direct that does go into the general fund, but into into the bank, if that makes sense.
Is 31.181 left over from 38? Is that what your question is? Okay.
Give 1 second, sorry.
Yeah, we can even adjourn if you wanna just like really, or we can, just sit here and.
Yeah, it's fine. We got, I mean, this is the time to just
Yeah, let's not rush
get
it,
it right.
is what I'm trying to say.
And
I just wanna double check one thing.
Yeah, no worries. You can double or triple check.
this, my calculations have those numbers adding up to 39.499.
Add it to what?
39.499, not an even 39.5. Let me do it again.
The 14,568,307 is the 39.5.
What was that?
The 14,568,307 is 39.5.
Oh, okay. I was just adding the mills down that row. I wasn't getting,
Oh.
I hadn't gotten to the, dollar amount yet.
You added up all the revenues, Sarah? Commissioner Lynch?
Sorry, I didn't, and now I got a separate number, a different number on my. I'll do that now.
We're off, like this, because we changed the insurance fund to the contribution. This is the insurance for business.
So the total on the revenues that is in this document is 2,356,199.10. Is that what you got? I should read two, sorry, I don't know why that's. Okay, 14 million. I have what we put in this document in an Excel spreadsheet for summing for totals. Would you like that number?
That is what I said, rest of the calculation.
The mill total is 39.499. So we need to put a point, a one somewhere. Just 31 point.
Are we getting that?
I've just added up 31.181
Oh,
through.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then the total revenues. Posted here is like 400,000.
So I think I know the
Over?
difference. We're off for $413,000, so you reduce the insurance fund by that much. But we didn't put that back.
In the table?
Yeah, we
Is
didn't
that
put that back into general fund. You know what I mean?
Well, the that total amount?
Yeah, 413,679.
You guys can get real fancy at some point in the future and have all of these with like Excel formulas, so that if you change, we have a little cheat sheet with the value of the mill, that gives you the dollar amount value, so it can help you.
We do have that spreadsheet.
No stress, it's fine.
Is there another 5 Yeah. 5 minutes. We'll take another quick break.
Let's take another quick break.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sarah, do you have Brooklyn Heights by any chance?
I reached out to a few people and I have not gotten anything.
Okay.
But
We're gonna take a quick break, folks.
Should we ready?
We are back, thank you,
So,
Commissioners.
hang on one second, sorry. Are you, is the best email reporter at Leadville or editor?
Yeah,
Or
that's
reporter? Sorry, don't be insulted, my computer, I've not figured out how to make it stop pulling up Anagadeskis as the name. I keep deleting that out and it keeps coming back somehow.
It's okay.
Okay,
Got them all?
Got them all.
No,
Oh, alright,
not, yes to that, no to you.
okay. I got Mark and Sherry are working on Anarch. And Sherry and maybe Ben might be working on
Just missing
for
Brooklyn Heights.
Brooklyn
I
Heights.
found Anarch in this lovely
Oh, you
folder
did?
that Cindy acquired for us.
Okay. Great. Then we'll see if we can nail down Brooklyn Heights, but
Apologies for the delay, but we had updated Lake counties for Lake County government's mill levy resolution 2024-43 to reflect a mill levy rate of 39.500. Which shows general operating expenses at 14.5 million. We did have abatements done in 2024. What was it? That should be the difference of that one. What's the difference in this one?
Three, 855.
Okay. There we go. So looking through the revenue tables. So these are the, part of a mill, if you will go to each fund. So general fund operating, human services, ambulance, CAPAC, insurance, line closure, and then the total assessment. Total assessed mills. And the amount to what a mill levy credit would be, a mill levy credit of 2.499.
I think, okay, I think we're missing like a .001 somewhere, so that total loss is like 39.5 and not 39.4. I think we're missing .001 mils somewhere, cause if you add that, the mils up, it's 39.499, not 39.4.
so not, I don't know how many decimal places we actually go to in the full math, is it like a rounding error or?
No, it's
Okay, so
this number right here. Two point four one two, 2.036, 0.271. What's insurance funds? Insurance fund is. CAPAC is correct. Line closure is correct. My sheet shows a total of 39.5.
So getting .499, but maybe it's my,
no, I think you're, I mean, just adding up the far right row, it comes to 9, not 0. Like 6, 12, 13, 18, 19. So there's
just add a .001 in the general fund.
Well, my,
Could it be a rounding error on
my sheet shows general fund of 32.34, human services 2.412, ambulance fund 2.036, cap ac 0.271, insurance fund 2.205, mine closure fund 0.271, as a total of 39.5.
But like 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13, plus 5 is 18, plus 1 is 19. It doesn't add up to 0, 0, 0, 0. Like we're missing a, we're missing 1,000 somewhere.
Yeah, or thousands, yeah.
At least 1,000. Like, it just,
Cell tells me 39.5.
well then, but then, I mean, that's just not possible with what's up here unless there's more digits that we're not
Right, so it could be
seeing.
going beyond the 1,000 in
Yeah.
Excel because it's building off of formulas to take
Yeah.
percentages.
Yeah.
So,
And then you could definitely have a rounding error that doesn't add up.
correct.
So I guess the question is just like, do we actually, like, in what we actually bill people, do we go
To 1,000.
to the thousand, I mean, do we use all the decimal places or do we stop in the tax bill? I mean, just,
We pie them, right?
Does it make sense to do 32.305?
I think so, does that change that 11 million? Slightly?
No, that number is,
If we did 32.305?
or we could add an asterisk saying total mills assessed may not sum due to rounding errors. Or due to rounding errors, due to rounding, and then we can figure this out. Yeah.
well, we're not, the other is 32.3039, but we're not allowed
No,
the
do
decimal.
305. We need to add a 1,000. Then you're good. Math adds up.
This math adds up, but I just wanna make sure that we're not putting in something in our resolution that isn't actually what they're gonna get taxed.
So this information, when you do this, then we give this breakout to treasurer. And then that's what goes out, so you're, regardless, you're levying a mill of 39.5. And this sheet tells us where the money is going, so this informs the treasurer of where it's going, so
Yeah.
for the tax bill would be calculated at 39.5, so similar to if you look at any of the other districts' resolutions, right, they levy a total amount and then they say where it's gonna go.
Yeah, okay.
So we're levying a
yeah.
total amount of 39.500.
Right, thank you, so it won't affect anyone's tax bills, it'll just be up to the treasurer to decide whether they're doing math to 3 decimal places or an infinite number of decimal places, and it's probably not material at the end of the day.
Correct.
Great, okay. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's it,
Got it.
clears my.
No, I just didn't wanna have to like a refund like 7 cents to like every county taxpayer.
Okay, so I can also read through this resolution.
What's that?
Would you like me to also read through this resolution? I can read through this resolution. Can you scroll so that I'm just sure to work off the.
Yep.
Okay. So reading resolution 24-43 into the record, certification of mill levy for Lake County. That it be resolved that Lake County Board of County Commissioners hereby certifies the following mill levies to be extended upon the assessed valuation of $368,817,901 for the County of Lake and the State of Colorado for the year 2025. We have our general operating expenses, total mills levied at 39.5 for a revenue of 14,550,874. And a breakdown of those mills levied through our funds. We have the general fund, 32.305, human services fund, 2.412 mils, ambulance fund, 2.036 mils, capital acquisition fund, 0.271 mils, insurance fund, 2.205 mils, mine closure fund, 0.271 mils, for a total mill assessment of 39.5 mils, leaving a mill levy credit of 2.499 of our total allowable mills of 41.999. Read, passed, and adopted at special meeting of Lake County Board of Commissioners on this 13th day of December 2024. I will move to approve resolution 24-43 as read into the record.
I'll second the motion.
Any,
Nothing further.
okay, call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye. So resolution 2024-43, certification of mill levy for Lake County is approved. Nice job.
So as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, the commissioners are supposed to certify the mill levies for all property taxing districts within Lake County by December 15th of every year. December 15th this year falls on a Sunday. We have all but one property taxing district's mill levies, their resolutions, their governing board's resolutions approving mill levy to certify property taxes. We have checked with the state. We do get that grace day of December 16th, which is Monday, to adopt that, so might as well wait unless anybody we're waiting on Brooklyn Heights.
That is correct.
We are waiting on Brooklyn Heights, which traditionally in the past has levied a mill of five mills on their little metro district.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
and
have context, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's made up of homeowners there or how that metro district operates. So the option would be is to adopt resolution 2024-45, and then if we get something from Brooklyn Heights, amend it on Monday, or we wait for Monday for a special meeting to certify all other property taxing districts and mills.
Let's just wait, I think we should just wait till Monday, let's not pass something that we don't.
Looking across your calendars, I would like to schedule a special meeting at 2 p.m. on Monday, to adopt this resolution and certify those mills.
I have a hard, excuse me. I think I have a hard stop at 2:30, but this should be pretty darn quick.
Cool.
Is 1:30 a problem to give you more breathing room, or
Happy to move to 1:30.
2 p.m. is better than 1:30?
Yeah, it has to be 1:30 actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 is good, I mean, it really shouldn't take more than
It should be quick.
10 minutes, yeah,
Okay,
so.
alright, that sounds good.
We'll figure that out.
Okay. Then we'll move to table resolution 24-45 to a special meeting on December 16th at 2 p.m.
Second your motion?
Call for vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, I think, is that all our business for today?
That is your business for today.
At 12:36, we are adjourned from the special meeting.
Yes, it's the CBO.